How's it going? Matthew Swinimer here with Collicutt Energy. We're finishing our third episode of this series. And the series is 3 main problems with the way we do power. The first episode we talked about was energy efficiency and the lack of it in the way we do power currently. The second was grid limitations and the associated issues there. And this topic is all about remote power. So let's get into it. What is remote power? Well, remote power is any power generation requirements or any power required environment, whether that's a community or an operation or a facility of some sort, where they do not have access to the North American electricity grid or they don't have access to the North American natural gas utility system. In fact, did you know that 200,000 people here in Canada are actually off the grid? They are in these remote communities. And you'll see on the screen that some of these communities are as far north as the Arctic, but some of them are actually also outside of large urban areas. So why are some of these communities or some of these facilities remote power? Well, the main reason is because there's probably a capital limitation. It costs too much money to invest in the capital and the infrastructure to get it to whatever that facility is, whether that's a function of the distance or it's just a function of there's just not enough demand to justify the amount of capital that's required. So what are some of the implications of remote power? Well, the first issue is that it's expensive. In fact, some communities in the north pay as much as $1 a kilowatt hour. That can be as much as 20 times what some people are paying. The second issue with that is because most of this remote power is diesel powered, the CO2 output per megawatt hour is much higher than what we produce nationally. In fact, straight diesel power is about 425% higher than the average electrical production all across Canada. So those are the 2 reasons. Now, before we get into some of the benefit or some of the technologies, I really want to talk to the topic of different forms of energy. Now, one of the things you're going to see on the screen is 4 different types of energy. There's electricity, there's natural gas, there's diesel, and propane. And one of the things you're going to see right off the bat is that electricity, diesel, and propane. Now, all of these are units of energy, not electrical energy. You'll see that the cost per kilowatt hour is relatively similar. It's about 8 to 14 cents a kilowatt hour. Now you'll notice that natural gas is somewhere in the range of 0.5 cents to 0.8 cents per kilowatt hour. It's a whole order of magnitude less. And why is that? And it's really a function of the fact that that natural gas is such a clean, dense form of energy, but it's also in such surplus quantities in our North American market right now that the price has really dropped over the last 10 to 15 years, and we don't see prices going up anytime soon. In fact, there's such an oversupply, people don't know what to do with all the natural gas. Also want to point out before we move on that the CO2 output per gigajoule or per kilowatt of natural gas is quite a bit lower than both diesel and propane. So you have a fuel source here that's cost effective and significantly cleaner. So the technology I want to talk today about, and you've probably heard it in the previous videos, is a technology called combined heat and power. And what is combined heat and power? Well, combined heat and power is the simultaneous generation of electricity and heat from a single fuel source. So you have a fuel source, whether that's natural gas or diesel or maybe even propane, and you use that to generate electricity in a generator, and then you're salvaging the heat from the engine and from the exhaust, and you utilize that within the community, the facility, or at the operation, whether that's a mine or some sort of remote industrial facility. And you offset the use of another fuel type that would have provided that heat. So let's go into the details around why. And the first reason I want to talk to is the cost-saving benefits of using natural gas-powered CHP. Now, natural gas CHP, as you'll see on the screen, even just from a power generation perspective, is so much cheaper than diesel power generation because of the cost of fuel. Then on top of that, we're actually able to offset a tremendous amount of heating costs, again, whether that's propane or heating oil, and save the facility that much extra cost. And so you'll see on the screen there's a tremendous opportunity for cost savings. Let's talk to sustainability benefits. So from a CO2 output, natural gas CHP compared to diesel, straight simple cycle diesel power generation, can save as much as 3,600 tons per megawatt of power installed per year. That's an incredible amount. Now let's talk to the final reason, which is the concept of reliability. Now, one of the reasons why these remote communities use diesel power generation is it's so reliable. It's consistent. You can store fuel there. It's really reliable. Now, natural gas can also be stored on site. Natural gas power generation is also reliable. So we have a cost-effective, sustainable, reliable option to diesel. Now, in some communities, you physically cannot get LNG or compressed natural gas to these locations. In fact, you fly the fuel in, and so diesel is really the only option in those scenarios. But even saying that, well, you can actually do diesel combined heat and power, where you're pretty much just taking the generator and you're salvaging that heat. And what you'll see on the screen right now is as a design concept for a 1 megawatt diesel powered combined heat and power system that would go to a remote community. This is a design that Collicutt designed using 3 engines, and we're salvaging that heat. And what we're able to do is we're able to offset the heating load that would have been utilized by a boiler system that would have ran on propane, heating oil, or potentially even diesel. So again, my name is Matthew Swinimer, and that's been Remote Power. If you have any questions, we covered a ton of content in this video here. If you have any questions about a particular aspect, feel free to give me a call, and happy to chat with you. Feel free to send me a note here on LinkedIn, like the video, share it if you want, and looking forward to connecting.